You might not realize this, but doctors in the US actually prescribe meth. Doctors in the US prescribe meth. It's called Desoxyn. Now, Desoxyn is actually a drug that is prescribed by doctors for people with ADHD and obesity. It is actually methamphetamine. If you read the bottle, it says methamphetamine on it. And here's what it actually does for those that have ADHD. If you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button. What's up, guys? My name is Eric. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a counselor. I'm none of that. I am diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, GAD, MDD, lost a wife and a father to suicide. I'm a recovering cocaine and alcoholic addict. I like to share all my experiences and everything that I've been through just to help other people know that they're not going through life alone. Desoxyn, it is legalized meth. It is not a drug that I've ever been put on because Adderall is actually the drug that works best for me. And this is where so many people now begin to feel that Adderall and meth are the same drug. They are not. They are drugs that actually help with our dopamine, it helps with our focus, and it affects our brain so that we are not a cluster of thoughts of overwhelmingness, that we can't get anything done. And if you don't struggle with ADHD, you don't realize that there are a lot of people out there that are a prisoner to their thoughts because there are so many of them that to try and even be functioning through the day is extremely difficult. I mean, if you have untreated ADHD, you're not constantly getting anything done. You're constantly distracted. You lose focus nonstop. It adds to your depression. It makes you very anxious. And it really sets you back a lot in life. I mean, a lot of people with learning disabilities and so forth, ADHD is a battle. Now, Desoxyn is a drug that is methamphetamine and Adderall are very different, and how it is how it hits your brain. Now, methamphetamine, it passes through the brain-blood barrier. That is one of the big differences between Adderall and methamphetamines. Adderall is amphetamine salts. Now, amphetamine salts actually are going to go through your system and to hit your brain, where Desoxyn is going to hit your brain a lot quicker, a lot harder, and a lot faster. What it does, though, is we all react differently to drugs. Every drug and everybody, our genealogy, if you get one of those genealogy reports and you do the swab, you'll see that different drugs will metabolize in your system differently. And that is part of the reason of why there are such a variety of different medications out there. Ritalin, for example, is something I was prescribed. Ritalin did a great job for my ADHD. It helped me focus in, but it dropped me too quickly. It processed out of my system too fast. Where Adderall stays in my system for as long as that I need to pretty much be a functioning adult. I take it 10 milligrams in the morning and then I take 10 milligrams in the afternoon, not a high dosage. And it allows me to be very functioning at work, very functioning in my personal life, and actually be a functioning, well put together, I would say, adult. Desoxyn is a drug that helps treat those that some of those meds don't work for per se, or they drop you too quickly, or they're not hitting your system and allowing you to focus in enough. There is about 16,000 prescriptions for this a year. And it is something that your doctors, they're not necessarily going to prescribe right away. It's not the go-to ADHD medication. Unfortunately, it's brought a stigma into ADHD meds because everyone now says that Adderall and all this is all meth, it's all the same. It's not. And how drugs do hit your system does affect on how it perceives make you high or how it actually affects your body so that it allows to do its job. The other thing with Desoxyn is it is there to treat obese individuals. If you go into a doctor, they do prescribe it for that also. Because one of the side effects to a lot of these amphetamines is a loss of appetite. It is something that I actually struggle with Adderall, is a loss of appetite. I have to set pretty much alarms to remind myself when to eat, because if I don't eat, next thing you know, I literally forget about it. And I get to the point that I'm so hungry that I'm cranky, I'm upset, I'm irritable, and I'm wondering why. And then I realize, well, I've skipped all my meals. So that is a side effect of the drug. And sometimes side effects can be used to our benefits. I mean, there are side effects too of hypersexuality, hyposexuality. So there's a lot of different side effects that go into the drugs. Don't be ashamed of what you are prescribed, though. And that's the sad part about it. When it comes to any drug that you're prescribed, don't be ashamed of it. I have taken meth, and not through the Desoxyn form. I took it the illegal form and snorted a couple lines because I used to be a cocaine addict and people would pass it off as cocaine. And I did notice, though, when I took it, it didn't make me high. It made me focused in, it made me irritated, but I could tell that my brain functioned differently than what a lot of people's brains did. And that's the thing, is what sets us apart is how our brains function. Caffeine, with a lot of people with ADHD, it slows you down. Stimulants slow us down. It affects our brain differently, where it actually slows us down instead of speeds us up. I can drink a pot of coffee and I can go take a nap. Where some people drink a pot of coffee and they can't go to bed that night. They're staying up to 1, 2 in the morning. that is one of the ways that you can easily find out if you are ADHD or not, is how caffeine does affect you. But also going in with your doctor and getting diagnosed properly with it, because ADHD does mirror some other things such as autism, bipolar 1. Those are a couple of the different diagnoses out there that somewhat overlap. They do have some similarities to them. Get with a doctor though, and don't be afraid of the meds. I mean, Desoxyn is going to do the same thing that Adderall does. And does it increase your heart rate? Yes, it does increase your heart rate. Do you have side effects of possible dry mouth, loss of appetite? There are certain side effects to it. But the big thing is the benefit that you get from it, where your thoughts are no longer like fireworks going off in your brain and all over the place, where you can't focus. You can't even try to adult. You forget everything. You miss appointments. You lose track of time. There's so much where it puts you back more into the moment. And the big thing is too, is don't get over the counter or don't get street corner meth. That is not prescribed. That is not pharmaceutical grade. And it is not there for the intended purposes of what Desoxyn is. Desoxyn, though, is a medication prescribed. Don't judge people by what they're prescribed from. And if your doctor does prescribe you Desoxyn, ask them why, ask them what the effects are of it, and make sure that you're very knowledgeable of it. It is in a pill form. It's taken as prescribed. You got to follow your doctor's directions on it immediately. And just like when it comes to meth and it comes to a lot of these different stimulant drugs, they do have addictive tendencies to them. Now, I can tell you this, as somebody with ADHD, when I stop taking my Adderall, I don't go through any kind of withdrawals. The biggest withdrawal I go through when I stop taking my Adderall is that I can't focus on anything. And give it a couple of days, I start to really get depressed. I get to very irritated with myself because I'm not getting anything done. I find myself wasting time. I find myself wasting days. And that alone is a struggle and a challenge in itself. So realize that when you are prescribed something, taking it as prescribed, communicating with your doctor, that's what it's all about. Communication, communication, communication. Let them know how it affects you. Let them know the positive sides, the negative sides. And it is trial and error when it comes to medication. There's a lot of different drugs out there when it comes to ADHD. Some are stimulants and some are not stimulants. And it's finding the right one that works for you. I'm very, very pro medicine. I've been to therapy since I was 13 on and off for different things. And I've been diagnosed throughout my life with different diagnoses, such as general anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder. It is okay to go and ask for help. And where that all begins is if you feel like you're struggling, if you feel like you might be ADHD, talk to your family, talk to your friends, and talk to a therapist. The worst thing that you can ever do is diagnose yourself online through TikTok, through YouTube, through WebMD. Get with a therapist, get a diagnosis, and start to understand what it is you're going through. Start to understand what kind of healthy coping techniques there are for it. And then if medication's needed, be understanding that, hey, these meds are tools for me to use to be helpful in life. It's not a hindrance. You're not a burden. You're not broken. You're not damaged. You're none of that. You're amazing. So don't give up. So, yeah, there is legalized meth out there. It's called Desoxyn. It is something that is prescribed to individuals. And it's something that some individuals, they make it through the day a little bit better and a lot easier because of it. So remember, judgment, it sucks. Don't judge others. We're all going through our own battles. Sometimes we're vocal about it, sometimes we're not. But most of all, remember that you matter. Hit that like and subscribe button. Love to hear your comments. Love to hear your experiences, because that's what it's all about. Not going through life alone.